Have you ever felt like you're trying to keep up with a nation's evolving political landscape, especially when, these grand visions for its future, they kind of collide with the often really complex realities on the ground. It's a dynamic we see playing out right now, and it's absolutely fascinating. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a vital conversation that seems to be unfolding. We're focusing on some, well, very ambitious strategic ideas for a nation's future, and then we're going to put them sort of head to head with some equally compelling observations, mainly from citizens who are questioning their actual implementation. Our mission really is to distill these contrasting viewpoints, help you understand the proposed directions for what's being called a unity government, a coalition formed after some political uncertainty, and also the critical questions being raised about whether those directions are truly taking hold. It's about understanding not just the what, but also the why it matters in what feels like a really dynamic political environment.
Precisely. And this deep dive, it's really going to explore that nuanced interplay, right,
Yeah.
between these high-level policy proposals and the very real public perception. We'll look at both the aspirational goals, which sound great on paper,
Mm-hmm.
and the practical challenges that seem to emerge when you try to put them into practice. It prompts us all, I think, to consider what truly stands in the way of even the best-intentioned plans.
Okay, so let's set the stage a bit. We've been looking at some recent, very influential strategic thinking that seems to be gaining traction in the national discourse. It puts forward three key ideas, and these aren't just like suggestions off the cuff. They're presented as absolutely essential directions for the current unity government if it wants to genuinely become, quote, a force for good and significantly benefit its people. So the first direction, it emphasizes a critical need to establish a new political order. Now, this isn't just about minor adjustments, tweaking things here and there. This is framed as a fundamental shift, moving beyond past eras that might have been defined by, say, specific ethnic policies or even those long-term national blueprints like Vision 2020. You remember that one in Malaysia, the ambitious plan aiming for developed status by 2020? It sort of officially reached its endpoint back in 2018. The call now is for a completely new foundational framework, something long-term, potentially even defining an entire new era.
Yeah, and what's particularly striking about this first point, I think, is the sheer ambition of it. It's not just about governing day to day,
Yeah.
but fundamentally redefining the very rules of the political game. Imagine implementing policies, systems that are genuinely sustainable, benefiting all citizens, moving beyond, the legacy of past policies that might have ended up prioritizing certain groups. It could even be seen, perhaps, as a strategic move to keep the current government coalition model going long term, cementing it maybe as more of a permanent fixture rather than just a temporary fix. It's a huge vision for political stability and a whole new way of operating.
That is a truly huge undertaking, a complete overhaul, almost. Now, the second idea proposed is that the government should actively forge a new Malaysian nationalism. Okay, the idea of national identity isn't new, obviously, but the emphasis here seems to be on really transcending those existing racial and regional divides. Divides that have, let's be honest, often been a source of tension.
Exactly. And if you look at the bigger picture, this is quite a profound call, isn't it? Moving beyond those historical tensions towards a genuinely unified national identity,
Yeah.
where shared progress is the actual goal. It's about shifting the national mindset away from what often feels like a zero-sum game.
Yeah, that idea that one group's win has to be another's loss.
Precisely. Instead, the aim is to foster a shared identity where everyone progresses together as Malaysians, breaking down rivalries between different ethnic groups or even those long-standing ones between, say, East and West Malaysia. The goal seems to be a truly cohesive national fabric.
Okay, and finally, the third key idea. This one focuses on the immediate and, well, crucial need to improve the people's welfare. This isn't just about abstract economic development figures,
No.
but a very direct focus on enhancing the overall happiness and, the well-being of citizens.
And this immediately makes you ask, right? How do you translate these broad, positive goals into tangible improvements? Things people can actually feel in their daily lives. The proposals here are quite concrete, actually. Things like raising wages across the board.
Which many would welcome.
Absolutely. Fostering the growth of local businesses and significantly reducing the nation's reliance on foreign labor. And crucially, it specifically targets uplifting vulnerable groups by boosting their income, creating more opportunities for entrepreneurs. Essentially, like you said, trying to raise both the ceiling and the floor for economic prosperity across all parts of society. It's presented as quite an ambitious economic reset designed to benefit everyone.
So those strategic ideas, they certainly sound compelling. They paint a very aspirational picture for the nation's future. But here's where the conversation gets really interesting and maybe a bit controversial. A markedly different narrative seems to be emerging, particularly from engaged citizens, people on the ground. They're raising some tough questions, offering observations about how this grand vision actually aligns with what they're seeing day to day. Okay, so on that first point, the proposed new political order. Many people seem to be pointing to what they perceive as a pattern of inconsistent policies and selective reforms. There are some deep concerns being voiced that stated promises things like cutting ministerial salaries, ensuring the independence of key bodies like the Anti-Corruption Commission, maybe even holding local elections, that these have either not been fully implemented or in some cases appear to have been walked back.
Right. And it makes one wonder, is what's genuinely being built the kind of reformosai, the reform that so many people envision, a system truly rooted in transparency and accountable governance? Adding to this complexity, there are also these serious concerns floating around about the alleged misuse of state institutions, perhaps to suppress opposing voices. Examples that get cited frequently include these cases involving DNA decisions. That's discharge, not amounting to acquittal for certain political figures. Now, these are instances where charges are withdrawn by the prosecution, but technically they can be reinstated later, and critics often view them as, well, potentially politically motivated withdrawals, maybe used to silence or target dissent. That perception certainly complicates the narrative of a new, reformed political order.
That's a really stark contrast, isn't it, between the vision and that perception. Now, regarding the second vision, the new Malaysian nationalism, critics seem to argue that despite all the high-minded rhetoric about unity, racial politics still visibly dominate the landscape. They point out that core policies, things like Bumiputra privileges, those advantages granted to the ethnic Malay majority and specific relish rights continue to be treated almost like political red lines.
Untouchable area.
Exactly. Areas deemed non-negotiable, politically too risky to alter, even for a government that's supposed to be about unity and appealing more broadly.
Yeah, what really stands out here is that perceived gap, isn't it? Between the aspirational talk of a unified, inclusive Malaysia and the sort of enduring realities of identity politics and these deeply entrenched policies. It's been widely noted, for instance, that the Prime Minister himself has emphasized that Bumiputra policy is a non-negotiable area, even when facing perhaps external pressure. Furthermore, there are observations suggesting that the Department of Islamic Development in Malaysia, YAKIM, which is a very influential Islamic authority in the country, has actually seen its influence and power potentially increase under the current government. There are reports of officials being integrated into various other government departments. This suggests that the rhetoric of unity might be bumping up against some very real structural barriers and political calculations.
Okay, and the third challenge. When it comes to improving people's welfare, the reality for many people right now seems to be struggles with rising prices, wages that feel stagnant, and the increasing difficulty, especially for young people, to afford basic necessities like housing. This is the everyday stuff.
And this immediately brings up that crucial question. How do you bridge the gap between the big macroeconomic vision, which might include, grand foreign investment deals.
High-level stuff.
Exactly, high-level stuff. And the microeconomic realities of everyday Malaysians, people who are really feeling the pinch right now. While efforts like, say, the Prime Minister seeking foreign investments abroad are undoubtedly important for the national economy long term.
Sure.
Many citizens seem to feel these actions are just too distant, too disconnected from their immediate daily struggles with the cost of living. It's that classic dilemma, isn't it? Top-down ambition meeting bottom-up hardship.
So what does all this mean then? We have this very compelling, almost inspiring strategic vision laid out on one hand, and then these stark, very direct observations coming from the public on the other, highlighting what looks like a really significant gap.
Well, to try and synthesize this, our analysis suggests that the core ideas themselves, the new political order, the new nationalism, improving welfare, they aren't inherently flawed. They represent valid, arguably important goals for national development for any country. The real issue, however, appears to be in the execution, the implementation.
Right.
And this just highlights a crucial challenge for any government, anywhere. That difference between having a clear direction on the map and actually navigating the terrain effectively to get there, especially when you're dealing with existing political currents and, well, realities.
And this leads us to a really critical and, let's be frank, somewhat controversial question. This government has now been in power for 2 years. If these directions are truly viable, truly beneficial, Why haven't they been fully realized yet? What's the holdup? Some observers even suggest that certain government actions seem to actively contradict its stated goals, pointing again to those ongoing debates around anti-corruption independence or those widely discussed DNA cases we mentioned earlier. It's almost like trying to repaint a house while people are still living in it. The vision for the new color is clear, but the practicalities are messy, things get in the way, and sometimes, the paint just isn't sticking properly.
Hmm. And this really makes us question, is the government still truly embodying what might be called a will to do good? Or are there deeper, maybe unseen obstacles preventing it from moving consistently in that direction? The demands from the electorate, particularly from those groups advocating for genuine deep reform, well, they've been pretty clear for a long time now. So what specific political will is missing? What risks are deemed too high? Or what other unseen barriers might truly be standing in the way of these changes that seem, on the surface at least, widely recognized and needed?
So we've unpacked a truly fascinating and, yes, potentially controversial dynamic here today. This gap between a strategic vision for a nation's future and the often harsh daily realities experienced by its citizens. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that even the clearest directions require consistent action. Action that might even be politically costly sometimes?
Absolutely. And it leaves us, and hopefully you, with a critical question to consider. In any system, really, when the path forward seems clear and the goals are widely understood, what truly prevents that leap from aspiration to action? Is it mostly about political will? Is it unexpected complexities popping up? Or is there something else entirely, something deeper that needs to be addressed before real change can actually occur?
Food for thought. Keep observing, keep questioning, and keep exploring how these grand ideas truly meet the challenges of reality. Until next time.